I'm excited to share that my latest book, How to Pay Your Mortgage Off in 10 Years, was announced as a finalist in the Personal Finance and Investment category of the 2024 Australian Business Book Awards. With its non-preachy, or at least I hope it is, easy to follow advice and heaps of brand new frugal tips, this book is helping thousands of people ditch their debt and reduce their mortgage. It is available online and in all good bookstores.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, The Joyful Frugalista. And now here's your host, Serena Bird.
You the Frugalistas, and welcome. Today I have a special guest, and of course, all of my guests are special. This guest is someone who has been on this podcast before and who is so awesome and has written another book that she's back here today as a guest again. She's also a bookshop owner, so there's a few clues for you as to who my guest is. She's a speaker, mentor, podcaster, author, and tech expert. But first, I have a favor to ask of you. If you enjoy this podcast and find it useful for you, please pay it forward by sharing with a friend. And even better, please follow the Joyful Frugalista podcast. So Kate Toon is an award-winning business mentor and digital marketing coach. Her Stay Tooned group of companies, including the Digital Marketing Collective, the Clever Copywriting School, and the Recipe for SEO Success. Kate's helped more than 20,000 other businesses demystify digital marketing, grapple the Google beast, love that, and find their own version of success. And today we're going to talk about her latest book, 6 Figures While You Sleep, How to Turn Your Services and Skills into High-Profit, Low-Effort Digital Products. So welcome, Kate, and once again, a huge, big congratulations on your second book.
Woohoo! Thank you for having me back a second time. I feel deeply honoured. Thank you.
I think you joked that you were catching up with me on the book department, and I have no doubt you will because this second book came out very quickly.
Yeah, so it was only a year after the second one, although my publisher has now said I need to wait 2 years until I do the third in the trilogy. So there isn't another one in 2025, possibly another one in 2026, but we'll see. Because as you know, Serena, it's a big effort putting a book together. So, yeah.
Yeah, it is. And I'm always really amazed. I've got friends who are writing books and they're like, I'm writing a book, and they're like on chapter 1 and I'm like, oh, a long way ahead of you.
Yeah, talk to me when you've done your first draft. I think that's it, isn't it? Getting through that first draft is such a challenge and most people don't make it to the end. So it's a lot of work.
A lot of work, and then comes the editing. So because it's a lot of work, it's really important to support local authors and also your local bookstores. And on that, you're a store owner now.
I am, yeah. So I bought the local bookshop in my town of New Minor on the Central Coast in April last year on a bit of a whim. And it's been a very interesting adventure. I might even write a book about buying a bookshop. Very different to what I do in my real job. Highly unprofitable, terrible margins, financially unviable, but a lot of fun.
I think bookstores just have this an amazing kind of community role, don't they? I mean, you see kids come in who love writing. You see people come in and browse. You really are connected with people who are reading or want to read in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is we can't compete in terms of literal book price. So we have to compete with community. We run a lot of events. You know, we make sure we have titles that the big stores might not necessarily have. We try and do really good recommendations, but it is super challenging. But it's going good so far. We're building up a lovely, loyal group of customers.
I wish you were closer to where I live. I'm going to have to do a road trip.
I
don't know how long it is. It's about 4 or 5 hours, I think.
You have to do a road trip and visit your book in different bookshops. I think that's a fun thing to do. So ring ahead, make sure they've got it, and then just visit your bookshop and sign copies. That's a nice trip.
Yeah, well, I did on Christmas. We were on the Gold Coast, so I went to Pacific Fair, and they were super lovely about it. So,
great fun.
It's important. I need to do that more. So now your latest book, 6 Figures While You Sleep. So you talk about Lego in the first sort of introduction. Lego, not a book, Lego. So just share with my listeners what happened in this Lego moment.
Well, the book is really about passive income, which sounds like a bit of a dirty word, but I was working as a service provider, as a copywriter, and for the first 5 or so years, I had my very young son. I reason I started my business was because I was pregnant. So I've always had my child and my business at the same time. And, I could only work a limited amount of hours a week, and I was doing well, and I'd put my rates up probably as high as they could go. I was starting to get rejections from people like Telstra. And if they can't afford you, you're at a good price. And so I was desperately trying to find ways that I could make money while I wasn't actually working. And the Lego story is, we're in Kmart, we didn't have a lot of money back then. And my son is eyeing up the big Lego sets on the bottom shelf, that are super expensive. And I'm like, you can't have one of those. And then he picks a little one off the shelf and I'm like, And then just as that happened, I had my first ever PayPal ping, which was selling my first ever digital product. And bizarrely, it was exactly the price of the Lego that he was holding. And I was like, the gods
are done music here.
Yeah. But it was just a real moment and the beginning of my passive income journey, really.
Yeah. And I can imagine. And it's weird when that happens. It just shows you are on the right path and just to keep going.
Exactly. Yeah. The universe is giving you signs. I'm not a very woo-woo person, but that was a very woo-woo moment.
Well, meant to be. Now, I know you're very conscious in your book about not using this term passive income, and it is a term that gets used a lot, like often in conjunction with selling the latest dodgy cryptocurrency scam. I've had a few of those approaches. So what do you use instead? And what are we talking about here when you're talking about generating income?
Well, and, obviously one of your best known books is How to Pay Your Mortgage Off in 10 Years. And so, property investment is something that people think about a lot as a source of passive income. So usually it's property investment, share investment, investment in businesses, or leasing an asset that you have, leasing your car or renting a room in your home. All of those, however, require upfront investment. So if you want to buy a property, you're going to have some kind of money if you want to buy shares. And the problem I had at that point was I had no money. That was the whole point. But I did have time in my brain. So when I talk about passive income, I'm talking about taking the skills you already have and instead of selling them one-to-one, selling them one-to-many. So as a copywriter, I could write your website, or I could give you a template that helps you write your website, or I could record a video that shows you how to write your website. I can't charge as much as if I'm doing it myself, but I can sell it to more people at all different times of the day around the world. So it's scalable and it allows you to make something once and earn from it again and again and again. So it's not entirely passive. There's obviously work up front. And then depending on the complexity of the thing, there's work to market it, to support it, to coach people. There's admin. But I guess the point is you can make more money by selling to more people in less time. So yeah, that's what I mean. And I call them automated digital passive income products, or AdPips, which is a bit of a mouthful. The one I had before was something like Sisyphus, which sounded like a venereal disease. So I thought
it does a bit.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
What I really loved about your book, actually, there were several things I loved, but I really liked the real life stories from people in your community, and that you could tell they're obviously people that you really were their cheerleader in their corner going, go, go, go. And the way that they had taken something they were passionate about, something they had expertise about and developed, profitable businesses with.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. What you think you think, well, everyone knows that, whether you're an accountant or even like, a mosaic artist, or you like to grow your own vegetables, or, you're a painter and you're like, well, everyone knows how to do this. Surely people don't, and people also like to learn from different people, multiple people, and people like to learn in a community. So they all feel like they're on an adventure together. And, it's the whole give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, give a man a fishing rod. I think I'm messing this up. And he'll eat for a year, Don't give me a fishing rod. I wouldn't know what to do with it. But do you see what I mean? I think what holds people back from thinking they can do this is they think that their knowledge or their experience doesn't have value, and everyone's experience has value. The other thing people worry about is it's been done before. Everything's been done before. People buy more than one thing. No one has just one book on their bookshelf. We sell your book in our shop. We just sold a copy the other day. And it's in our little property investment section. And there are oodles of books, and people will come in and buy 2 or 3 books at the same time on exactly the same topic because they want different perspectives and they want different voices and different experiences. So yeah, it's a great way to make money and a great way to help more people.
Yeah, well said. And I totally agree with you on that concept that if someone's going to read one bit book, they're probably going to read more in the genre. So, and it's really important when starting out to see that and not just think, oh, well, it's been done before. When I first started writing, my first blog was about looking at restaurants in Taiwan because I was living in there at the time. And everyone kept telling me about this other blog ad nauseum. And it was a bit like, yeah, I know about this other blog. And I thought about it. I was like, well, yeah, there is another foodie blog in Taipei. Does that mean that I don't do one? And I went, no, because I've got a different voice. And so that particular woman, she was Taiwanese American. So she grew up in America. She was back in Taiwan, but she missed a lot of American food. So she wanted to go to a lot of expat places. But I was Australian at the time, married to someone Taiwanese, and I was fascinated by Taiwanese culture. So I tended to gravitate to more traditional Taiwanese places to explain the culture and the connection. So we just had different focuses. So it's fine. They're perfectly complementary.
Yeah. And that's it. As you know, when you're pitching to a publisher for a book, you actually have to provide comps, comparative totals.
Yeah.
Like to prove that your book has a place in the world and is a popular topic, but also to try and point out that why yours is different. And it's really hard because, again, people have said, oh, with my first book, 6 Figures in School Hours, oh, it sounds a bit like the 4-hour work week. And I'm like, yeah, it is, but it's written by a woman who can't get up at 5 a.m. and have an ice bath and focus on her business because she's got kids, So it is a bit, but it's also not. Do you know what I mean? And some people are going to like the 4-hour work week. Some people are going to like mine, and some people are going to like both. There's plenty of room,
Yeah, totally. I want to talk a bit about the reality of the journey. So I really love your authenticity, both in your book and in person. Like when we have connected over the podcast, you are the real deal. Kate is the real deal as far as I go. She's not trying to sell you stuff you don't need, whether you want it or not. There is a level of connectedness that is there. But also a story that's very true. It's not just like a rah-rah overnight success story. So I often find that there's so many, particularly airbrushed video things out there, like come with me, let me show you the secrets. I made $1 billion by the time I was 1 week old. What's wrong with you? And you don't do that. So I just wanted to talk a little, or get you to talk a little bit about your journey to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, I pitched the book as it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-rich-slow scheme because it took me a while, So I did pretty well as a copywriter. I was earning like low 6 figures as a copywriter. And then I had to take a bit of a financial step back to build this stuff. I built a course, I built a membership. That took a lot of time. So I took a cut in income that year. But, over the course of the last 10 years, which is, not an insubstantial amount of time, the SEO part of my business, because I have multiple passive income streams, but the SEO part has probably earned me nearly $3.5 million revenue. Important figure is the profit, though, the net profit, not the gross profit. So the net profit on that is probably around 2.5 million, which it means it's a 75% net profit, which is unheard of. In business terms, you want 5 to 10% is considered pretty, average, and 20% is amazing. But because it's digital, because it's not requiring a warehouse and rentals and a team of people, it's literally me. And I have just sold the same thing again and again and again, updated, improved, as whatever. It's highly, highly profitable. But it's taken 10 years. And some people might say, actually, that's not that much. It's really weird talking about money. Some people might go, that's amazing. You're really up for yourself. Other people might go, that's actually not that much money. And you don't know where things are going to land. But in the book, I share all my financials. I share what I earn on every single launch. You can see it go down and go up and go down and go up. And I share all the costs and expenses. So I'm transparent. How you interpret that data, how you feel about those figures is on you. Like if you think it's a lot of money, great. If you think it's not very much money, that's your perspective. But for me, it's been life-changing. My passive income has allowed me to pay off my mortgage in 10 years, good title for a book. It's allowed me to buy 2 investment properties, obviously with mortgages, It's allowed me to buy stocks and shares. And it's allowed me to build up my superannuation. And while I never think anyone's financially secure, God, I'm in a better place than I was 10 years ago when I was 50 grand in debt to the tax office with a huge mortgage and barely making ends meet, So it's been a long journey. 10 years is a long time to stick at something and to do it every day, self-motivate to do it every day. But I'm bloody happy.
Yeah, and well said. And what I like about the authenticity you bring to this, you paint the picture that it can be done, but also not like, if you haven't done this, there's something wrong with you. And I was at FinCon about 3 years ago, and I went into a particular, there's all the side rooms. So I was on a particular room, and the person did a bit of a brag thing about how much he'd made in the last year, and then then stopped and went, oh, if you don't have this many listeners to your podcast, and it was a figure that put a podcast in like within the top 1%, you shouldn't be in this room. And I was like, whoa, this is like, it's not actually helpful.
No, I mean, there's no leaderboard. No one cares. Like if you're flexing on social media, A, I think a lot of people don't believe it. And B, I don't care. There's a line I read in a book, if you see someone driving past in a Lamborghini, you're admiring the Lamborghini, not the person in the Lamborghini. You're imagining yourself in the Lamborghini. You don't care about the person driving it. In fact, you probably think they're a knob. Now, I wouldn't want a Lamborghini. I drive a Mazda 2. But, I think I've never striven to be rich. I've never thought, oh, I want to be able to buy Prada bags and whatever. I'm not particularly a materialistic human being, but I wanted to feel safe. I am now separated from my partner, 7 years separated. There's no one coming to save me. And for women, women are the biggest growing group of people in, below the poverty line, over 60.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to kind of secure myself, try and be able to give my son a helping hand, not too much of a helping hand, because I don't want him to turn out to be a knob himself, but make it slightly easier or give him a few choices that maybe I didn't have. But yeah, really, it's been about security rather than just pointless wealth building, It's been about security.
Yeah, well said. And that's probably why I chose a career in public service, because it was secure. But anyway, part of me is always an entrepreneur and always will be.
Yeah.
I want to go to your book, and I don't usually do this, but there's something you wrote that was really, really profound. Actually, there's a lot of things you wrote were really profound.
Oh, stop it. Say it again.
So page 19. So the truth is, many of those business coaches encouraging us to dream big aren't wearing our shoes or slippers. They're so far ahead of us that they can't remember what it felt like to be us. So start small. Think about what you can achieve today rather than endlessly dreaming about a fictional future. Look, I really love this on so many, many reasons. It really encapsulates my imperfect action kind of approach anyway. But I wanted to ask, how important are small steps?
Oh, massively. And I think I work with a lot of people who are neurodiverse, who either have autism or ADHD or, mental health issues, depression, anxiety. It kind of goes hand in hand with being a bit of an entrepreneur. It seems to be a common theme. If you run your own business, then maybe you don't quite fit the mold of corporate.
Yeah.
So one of the things that a lot of people who have that kind of mindset struggle with is the big picture. So, the helicopter view. So, for example, you read my book and you think, wow, I'd love to make a 6-week course on how to pay your mortgage off in 10 years. And I'd make videos and I'd make PowerPoints and I'd have a few Zoom calls and I'd charge $997 and blah, blah, blah. You maybe work at that. And then you think, what the hell? What do I do now? How do I start? What's the first thing I do? And how do I do the next thing and the next thing? And then it just feels overwhelming. And then you never reach your goal because you're incapable of taking that big dream and chopping it into daily tasks and waiting for the dopamine rather than getting the dopamine today. So what I see a lot of people do is announce they're going to do something. You get all the praise and the love. Oh God, that's amazing. You're writing a book. That's so cool. No, you don't get to announce your book until you've written it. Then you get your dopamine, because if you get that dopamine first, you have the sensation that you've done something, you've done nothing. So I think it's really important to be able to take your big dream and slice it into, a year, into a month, into a week, into a day, and then have the mindset of plodding on and accept that 80% of having a business is really boring. Turning up each day and recording voiceovers over PowerPoints, it isn't fun. You've got to be in it for the grit, not the glory. The whole line is that, marathon runners actually enjoy getting up at 4 a.m. in the winter and running 20 kilometers. They love the marathon day, but if they could not get pleasure out of that horrible bit, they're never going to get to the good bit. So you have to persist. And, there's a lot of talk in our industry, entrepreneurs, about passion and enthusiasm. Passion dies. Passion will get you through the first couple of weeks and then it'll be gone. Motivation I've done a podcast for you, Serena. I just did it the other day. You were asked about procrastination.
I know. I hadn't listened to it. I saw you message yesterday. It's another to do very soon, I promise.
It's out in the next few days. But, procrastination is an avoidance of doing the thing that you want to do. You know that it will ultimately be amazing, but it's like, but I don't want to sit in the discomfort of having it not done for the next 2 months. Instead, I'm going to go after an easy win today because I want the dopamine today. And I think that's the hardest thing, waiting for the reward and putting the time into those little tiny daily tasks and knowing it will all come together in the end. It's very hard though.
Yeah, look, it is very hard. And we are a culture that is a bit addicted to dopamine, which is why I guess social media works so well, because you put something out. It's kind of like it's there, you get responses. Look what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm terrible for that.
Oh, me too. I mean, I am too. And I have periods where I'm so addicted to my phone. I'm refreshing. And, I put a reel up of people liking it. Give me the love. And you've got to stop yourself because we can tend towards taking the easy path for the easy. And then we never achieve our good stuff. And then we look back and go, all those things I wanted to do, what did but I say that I have spurts. That sounds rude, but I am not able to say, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. every day for the next year. As soon as I say that, I don't want to do it. But I sometimes am able to say, I'm going to have 1 week where I'm going to go really hard, 1 week, or I'm going to start, I'm just going to write for 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Anyone can write for 7 minutes. And I can stop after 7 minutes. But I have to do 7 minutes. And obviously I don't stop after 7 minutes. Because once you start, it's just the starting. It's getting yourself to the gym. It's putting your gym clothes on the night before, wearing them in bed and getting yourself to the gym. Once you're there, you're probably going to do a few bits and bobs. But it's the getting yourself there that's the important bit.
I often see you 6 a.m. gym photo. So you do very well at that.
I go in, take a photo, leave and have a coffee. No, I don't. I've had, again, that's a spur. I had a period where I was going 4 days a week, whatever. And then I get bored of it. I'm like everyone else. I get excited by things. I get bored by things. I maybe a touch ADHD as well, like have big spurts of creative energy and then have nothing. And I think you've got to know yourself. I'm 50 years old. I'm not going to change now. I mean, I'm not saying I'm resistant to change, but I am who I am. And I'm so tired of hating on the qualities in myself aren't perfect. I really want to spend what I've got left on this planet enjoying my qualities, good and bad, so I have good days and bad days and I've got to enjoy them both as best I can.
Well, I think writers often do things in spurts. Like sometimes the ideas just come, but this is the weird thing. And I don't know if it's the same with you. Sometimes I'm really on a roll and I think what I'm writing is brilliant. And then I look back and it's not as good as I think. And other times it feels just like a hard slog. And I'm like, this article's not really good. And then it's actually not too bad.
I know. I think the main thing there is not looking back, just moving forward. So when I'm writing, I never reread what I wrote the day before the next day. I start from the final sentence and I move forward. And I don't allow myself to read back until I finish the full first draft. That's super important to me, even sometimes because I so love self-editing. I could spend a month on the first chapter just going over it and over and over it. I write in white copy on a white background, so I literally can't see what I've written. And then I don't change the copy to black until I'm at the end of the process. So it's just tricks and games, like if I reread what I wrote in my book, I'd have never finished it. And even now, like I've got my book by my desk, so, I can flick to a page and do a TikTok or whatever. And I'm reading bits and sometimes I'm like, God, you sound so clever. And other ones I'm like, who wrote this? It's so embarrassing. And I think that's just the creative mind, isn't it? Like sometimes we love ourselves. Yeah. We're tortured artists. Even though we're writing about mortgages and passive income, we're still Van Gogh in his loft.
Really important.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really important stuff.
Yeah.
I have to say this because I know you'll have a view, most people do, but that whole 1989 movie Field of Dreams, that I'm talking about, the classic quote, if you build it, they will come. True or false?
Oh, very much false. I think if you build it, I think the problem is people build it and then they build an audience or then they build momentum. And my approach in the book is as soon as you've had an idea it's kind of counterintuitive to what I said earlier about the dopamine and telling people you're doing something. But I think if you've decided that you're going to write a book or whatever, it's fine to announce it, but then you need to keep people on that journey with you. Oh, I'm writing the chapter about, putting money in redraw accounts. Has anyone done this? What have you done? If you're using people and getting their tips along the way, I think that's really good. And you're building momentum so that by the time the book comes out or the thing or the course or whatever, people are like, oh, I felt like I was a part of it. It's the Kickstarter mentality. You know, when you join a Kickstarter campaign and you're supporting this new invention or this new thing.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like you're part of something, and we're all desperately craving community. So I think as creators, we need to understand the importance of, yes, building the thing, but building the audience and the momentum and the loyalty and the love at the same time. Because what I see with passive income is people spend months behind the scenes developing a course. They put it out there and they don't sell any. And because they're so excited about it, they're like, I've done something wrong. It's like, no, you haven't done anything wrong. I am on my 30th launch of the Recipe for SEO Success course. 30 launches, right? And still some people will come to me and say, oh, you've got a course. And I'm like, you've been on my email list for 6 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, you've written a book. I've literally talked about nothing other than the book for 2 years. But because it's important to you, but it's not important to them. They've got a million messages coming at them every day. What is it? 9,000 advertising messages a day. They're getting emails that they just don't even open. They just delete. They're trying to remember to pick their kid up and get the cat washed and pressure wash the driveway and eat. You know, your thing is very low on the list. I find it funny, even like our good friends. I'm sure you have the same. I'll have good friends and I'll be like, have you bought my book? And they'll be like, yeah, no. And I'm like, you're my mates. You're my mate. Oh no, I mean to buy it. I will buy it. I'll buy it tomorrow. And then they don't. And it's not because they hate me. It's just because life is busy. And
life is busy. You're right. We've got so many things going on, so many sources of information. But when there's like a crisis point, there's a crunch point when you're suddenly, struggling to pay your mortgage or really desperately wanting to develop an income stream to support yourself as you transition to something else. Then suddenly you go looking for these things.
You do. And you probably Google. But the other thing is you probably talk to other people and say, has anyone found any good books about how to pay your mortgage on? And so the marketing that you've done, well, then someone will go, oh, well, Serena Bird's written a great book. You should check hers out. And other people will become advocates for you.
And go and buy it at that great bookstore.
Yes. And you might have each bookman. Well, this is it. And it's about building relationships, been on podcasts like this and being generous. Like, you're a very generous soul. I try to be generous and,
you're very generous.
And try and lift other people up because there's plenty to go around, I believe. I didn't used to. I used to be quite, oh, God, please don't someone else launch an SEO course because you won't buy mine. But now there are hundreds of SEO courses and people still buy mine because they're buying me, not the course. Do you know what I mean? They like the cut of my jib. And also people buy more than one thing, as I said. So yeah, I think the marketing is really, really important to keep the awareness up. And then, as you said, when someone's in crisis or when someone's got absolute need, you are the first that comes to mind. And that's what you want. You want someone to go, oh, Serena Bird, she's the mortgage woman. Ah, Kate Toon, she's the SEO person.
And I've been receiving her emails for 6 years, so she's not a fly-by-nighter.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing I was going to say as well. Talk about passion. The biggest part of my success is simply turning up every day for years. I've watched so many other people go by the wayside in the last 10, 15 years. So many businesses start, big bang, exciting, fade away. So many people start a podcast, get 8 episodes in, realize it's really hard work, fade away. There's a lot to be said for persistence, for just keeping on and just showing up.
It's 7 or 8. I can't remember which one is the magic number for the amount of podcasts.
Yes, it's 7, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's done. Yeah.
The graveyard of 7-episode podcasts, And it's because, again, I think this is it. People like the idea of having a podcast. They like the idea of having written a book. They like the idea of having a course. But they don't like the reality of the tedium it takes to get to the goal. And the ability to delay that reward until you get to the goal is very hard, as you said, in our modern culture, but even not in our modern culture. And the other thing is, a lot of people have read my book now, and I've got people in my membership and they've had a stab at doing some of this, but then they realize actually it's not for them. They are simply not willing to build the audience. I can't have 10 followers. I need hundreds of followers because 1 out of 100 will buy my thing, right? It's a mass market approach. It's not a one-on-one approach. And some people just do not have the energy or the wherewithal to be showing up on social media and doing the things and speaking on podcasts. And that's okay, But at least if you try, then And you don't sit there thinking, oh, I could have done a course. You're like, no, I didn't want to do that. And I decided not to. And that is as valid and as valuable as deciding to do something is deciding not to do something.
Yeah, exactly. Finding out early. So I have one final question for you. Do you have a Frugalista tip to share?
A Frugalista. This is
another one.
Money, saving money.
Yeah.
I think, for me, it's about, this is quite socialist. I'm going to get pretty socialist now. I think we live in a society that is constantly telling us that there's something wrong with us. We're too fat, we're too thin, we're too short, we're too tall, we're not eating the right things, we're not wearing the right clothes. And as I've worked in advertising, I see behind the scenes, I know the messages that will tweak your nipple of desire or make you feel FOMO or left out. So for me, my biggest Frugalista tip is to stop looking at ads, block them. Block. Don't, every time you visit a website, you're going to get cookies, clear your cookies. It's a digital solution. Put your blinkers on and stop looking at ads because they wear you down. I looked at a swimming costume the other day and I didn't buy it, but obviously then it gets served to me again and again and again on Instagram. Once I've seen it 15 times, there's a bit of my brain that believes it's better than when I saw it the first time. There's a little bit of me that the familiarity makes it an easier purchase than it was when I saw it the first time. That I'm used to the price now. The price isn't a shock. Do you see what I mean? I get comfortable with that purchase. And it's not because it's any different. It's just because I've been worn down by ads. So my Frugalista tip is to really be conscious of your ads that you're absorbing and try and block them as much as possible. And, put it in your cart and leave it there for a month. And if after a month you still want it, then you can buy it. But, try to stop looking at ads. Is that a valid tip? I don't know.
Yeah, look, very much so. So, when, ads really took off on YouTube, I would really make a conscious effort not to buy magazines because magazines are notorious for the airbrushed images and the, your life is wrong, how to get on a diet to avoid the middle tire or whatever it is. So, but it's all premised on, the selling those products. Television was particularly bad, but unfortunately now I'm finding it difficult to get away from them because even Netflix has ads on it now.
I know, and that's really, even Amazon, even though you're paying for it, you have to pay even more to not have the ads, which was the whole point of these streaming channels. Was that, and obviously TV ads have gone down the pan. I used to work in traditional advertising and having a TV ad was the be all and end all, but now the reach of that would be appalling. You're far better off doing a reel or a TikTok ad. And it is unavoidable on social media. You're constantly fighting a barrage of it. So I think you've got to be, it's like trying to get our kids off devices. They're going to see stuff. So rather than just banning devices, we need to teach them the skills to understand what they're looking at and cut the wheat from the chaff and dismiss the messages. And we as adults need to be good examples of that. I've had a period where every other week, and a parcel was turning up that I really honestly couldn't remember ordering because I'd probably ordered it in a frenzy of, when I'm going to sleep or when I'd watched 6 ads and I'd just gone click, 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 PayPal's all linked up. So easy to make that purchase.
Yep.
And it turns up and I'd be like, who ordered this? And I'm like, you before. So just trying to be a bit more conscious of it and being aware, wow, that is an ad I am being sold to. Do I really want this? Do I need anything at the moment? Can I just be,
That is a great tip.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing that. Now, people can find you on your website.
Yes, katetoon.com has links to all my various passive income courses and resources, as well as my 5 books. So I've written a couple of business ones and a kids one and a very bad poetry book. Or you can pop to my bookshop in Umina and meet me in person, perhaps.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing all your books, including some I didn't know about. That is wonderful. Thank you so much.
All right. See you soon, Sarita.
Bye.
What if
The Joyful Frugalista does not provide financial advice. Any opinions or information shared are my views or those of my guests. Please consider seeking independent legal, financial, taxation or other advice regarding your unique circumstances.